calls and hearing some of the brief conversations and overhearing the whispering and some of the questions. I know that we all know why we're gathered here this morning. And I do want to acknowledge that it's not very often that we get together as a whole group to have an assembly, because oftentimes we determine as a staff that some of the generic presentations that come across our door are sometimes of little or maybe no value. But that is definitely not the case this morning. With that, we are privileged this morning to have members of our first responders, EMTs, local law enforcement, county officials, local community members, friends, and family present on a very sensitive but all too real topic. And that's the dangers of general and, more importantly, distracted driving. So as I turn this over to our presenters today, I first want to give a genuine thank you to all of the individuals that help keep our community safe. And with that, as I pass off the mic, if you would please join me in a round of applause for all of the individuals that are going to share their experiences with us this morning.
All right. How many people like getting woken up in the middle of the night, like 5:30 in the morning? You guys like that? It's not a cool experience for me. I don't think it's very, very neat. When I get to see you in my role as an EMT, it's a little different than when you get to see me. When I get to see you, you don't choose to get to see me. There's usually something happen that I've got to go in to be there. And so today we want to talk about something that's going to be pretty sensitive, right? We're going to talk about things that are pretty real, and they've happened right in our community. They've happened close to us. Some of them haven't happened to us directly, but some of them have, okay? And so we're going to talk about some things that are going to be real frank. But the reason that we're talking about this is because each and every one of you matter to us. You matter. So the choices you make, the things that you do in your life, have consequences and matter. Isn't that interesting? Do you ever wake up some days and you wonder, gosh, did I get up this morning and did I really do anything that was impactful today? I got my homework done. Woo-hoo! You know, big job, good job, gold star. You know, I have 3 kids that go to school here, Tate, Allie, and Tuck, right? And I remember, and we can all think back to the first grade class and kindergarten class. Remember the bases? I always ask my kids, did you get on base today? Because that's not a good thing, is it? To get on base, you get in trouble in the classes, right? Can you guys remember that? Can anybody remember that? So we don't want to get put on base, right? And so sometimes we feel like we just accomplished today if we didn't get put on base. And as you get into high school and you get into junior high, it's a little different than just the base, right? There's more consequences to life and the actions that we do, but there's also a lot of time to learn. And so today, we want to tell you that each and every one of your lives is important to us. That you're going to be through a lot of things in life, and you get to go on, and you're molding, and you're growing into stuff, but the choices you make every day in little things are going to matter. When we look at things like driving, that's one of the most dangerous things that we do on a day in and day out basis. Maybe helping our parents ship might be kind of close to that danger, right? When you're in there and the cow runs you up the fence, right? Or if you're in our family and we make you go out roping, we can cause danger in our family. You know, but we look about the most dangerous things that we do from day in and day out. The football field, we might break a leg or we might do different things like that, but usually we survive from that. But one of the most dangerous things we do is we drive in a car. So we have a group of people that are going to share with you today. First, we're going to share about people who have survived from wrecks, who have went in and the real consequences of that and what goes on in life. And so we're going to share about wrecks, and we're going to have Jace is going to share with us a little bit today. Somebody that's in your own group and what that's like to go through that type of a scenario. And then we're going to have Steph is going to talk a little bit about some choices that she made, and Steph is going to be your new trainer for the sports activities, and Steph is a first responder. And then we're going to go from that, we're going to have the county attorney, Heather Perry, is going to share with us about what's the legal ramifications. Believe me, from listening to her talk, you don't want to be driving if somebody dies in a vehicle. Not a good thing. Did you hear that? You don't want to be driving if somebody dies in a vehicle. Yeah, we're talking about death today. But we're also talking about a way to keep you alive. We'll never know whether this talk is impactful. Did you know that? Because if we see you 25, 30, 40 years down the road, if you get to come to my funeral, I'll never know whether I saved your life or not. Because I saved your life. We'll know if the talk wasn't impactful. Right? Statistics are you will be in a wreck. And something will happen. Right? It's the way things go. And we do the texting and driving thing. We've heard so much about that. Drugs and alcohol are talk we talk about, but they're not. We know, right? We know not to use drugs and alcohol. That seems like very common. But you want to know who the number one people are that text and drive? What age group do you think it is? Anybody guess? It's our parents. It's me. Can you believe that? The number one people that text and drive is mom and dad. Do you guys remember the little songs about buckle up for safety and all that stuff that you learned? Most of us parents buckle up for safety because our kids sang it so much in the back seat that it was annoying. I made a deal with my kids to talk to me. And they talk to me when I'm sitting in the driveway, sitting there, not driving to get off my phone. And sometimes when I'm in the house. But that is an important thing, and having that kind of commitment is really important. So we're going to talk about that, then we're going to move, and we're going to talk about parents of kids that survived and kids that haven't survived. So Suze and Angela's going to talk to us today, and then we're going to talk to the county coroner. What happens to you when you die? That sounds so bright and cheery, doesn't it? It's exciting. So then, when we finish up that, we're going to have Nathan and Joe, and they're going to talk to us about law enforcement. They're going to talk to us about some of the wrecks that they've seen this year. We've had an enormous amount of wrecks in our community, and we want to make sure that we are talking about it and that we're looking at it. So today, you're going to hear a lot of hard-hitting things. It's going to be emotional. It's going to be challenging. And if it hits you emotionally, we have our counselors are here, Mrs. Fiddler, to help out with things. We have the teachers that are here to help out with things because they see things too. And they see the choices that we make, and they want to be here because we care about who you are and that you live. Okay? So we're going to try to make this short and sweet and get things going. And I'd like to turn it over to Jay Sani, senior from Hobson High School, and share about his incident.
I'll start by saying good morning. Most of you guys know me. I'm Jay Sani. I'm a senior here at Hobson, and hopefully with my underclassmen, I'm not the big scary senior that everybody's afraid of. I know that this presentation is focused around distracted driving, but I'm mostly here just to tell you about my personal experiences and give you a first-hand view of the devastating effects that an car accident can have on not only my life, but my family's lives. I'll start by setting the scene. It was August 4th, 2011. I was in 8th grade, about to be a freshman. I was only 14 years old, and I did not have my driver's license. But like many young kids across Montana, I learned to drive at a young age because I lived on a ranch. So I felt pretty confident in my abilities to drive. One night, me and my sister were in Hobson, and I decided that I was going to be able to drive home. I felt confident that I could drive home and get me and my sister home safely. It was dark, and I hadn't driven in the dark much, but I thought that I could do it. This previous spring, before 2011, the bridge to my house washed out, so I couldn't take the highway home. I had to take the back roads. I had to take the gravel. And like you guys know, the gravel roads are littered with unpredictable turns and loose gravel. So I was about 2 or 3 miles from home. I came up on a turn, a right turn. I was going about 30 miles per hour, which I thought was a safe speed. And I saw the turn, but it snuck up on me a little bit. I slowed down, but as I came around the turn, the back end of my car pitched it a little bit. I tried to stay calm, but to do this, to fix my mistake, I jerked the wheel in the opposite direction. And what I ended up doing was overcorrecting, and I put my car in the ditch. And like you guys have seen, a lot of these gravel ditches, they're steep and they're really unforgiving. And when my car hit the ditch, it went up on 2 wheels and it just kind of flopped onto the driver's side. As it did this, I put my hand up against the window to brace myself as the car fell. The window broke, and I don't know how or exactly what happened with my arm. Ended up outside the vehicle. As it slid to a stop, I knew that it was cut. It was dark out and I couldn't really see, but I knew that there was a lot of blood and I knew that it was really bad. As I picked my arm up, I could see a pool of blood already on the ground. There was already a pool of blood in the window against the dirt where the car sat. At this point, I started to panic a little bit, and I asked my sister if she was okay. She was all right. She was a little bit shaken up, but everything was okay. I hopped out of the passenger door, which was actually at the top of the vehicle. I jumped out of the car, let my sister out the trunk, and then this is when I really looked at my arm. I used a light from her cell phone to see what the damage was. All that was left of my left forearm was bone and several shredded tendons. I really started to get worried at this point. I took her phone and I dialed 911, told the operator where I was, and then right after called my mom, who was an EMT for Judith Basin County. She arrived, she picked me up, she looked at my arm, decided what we were going to do, and she radioed the ambulance, and we were going to find a place to meet up. On the ride to the ambulance, I wanted to look at my arm a little bit more. I tried to move my fingers, nothing was happening. I had no movement in my fingers, and the pain was unbelievable. The shock wore off, and I couldn't think, I could barely breathe, just really short, choppy breaths. So eventually, we met up with the ambulance. They took me inside, they put me on a gurney, gave me oxygen, but they weren't certified to give me painkillers yet. So the plan was to meet up with another ambulance at Rainsford who could administer pain medicine. This was the longest ride of my entire life. I spent half hour, probably 40 minutes in the ambulance, just in agonizing pain. I couldn't help but to cry and to let out yells because it hurt so bad. When we finally met up with the other ambulance, pain medicine was administered, and in that moment it was extremely relieving to have some of the pain gone. But it scared me because all I wanted to do was sleep. I just wanted to close my eyes, I wanted to rest, I just felt really tired. I don't really remember much after this. The next thing I knew, I woke up in the ER at Deputies in Great Falls. Again, I saw blood everywhere. There was blood underneath me on the gurney, and I looked to the floor. There were pools of blood on the floor, and I didn't understand how I could even lose this much blood. I didn't understand how I was alive still. And I noticed that doctors and nurses, everyone was picking up their pace. They were running in and out of the room. They were panicking a little bit, and that made me panic because I realized what they were doing, and they were scared that they were going to lose me. So each doctor would evaluate my arm. They would take bandages off of it, and the blood and the tendons would stick to these bandages. And every doctor would have to look at them. Every doctor would have to take these bandages off. And I barely kept conscious. It was the worst pain I've ever had, by far, was in that moment. And eventually things did go fuzzy, and I don't remember anything after that. The next thing I knew, I woke up in the intensive care unit in Great Falls. And going into surgery, I didn't know if I was going to keep my arm or my hand. I was actually pretty sure I wasn't going to. And the doctors wouldn't give me a for sure answer either. So when I woke up and saw that my hand was still there, I was relieved. But the pain was still there, and it was still hard to bear. So I spent the next 3 days in Great Falls. I underwent one surgery there, where they took arteries out of my left thigh and put them into my arm, so I could have blood flow to my hand and wouldn't lose circulation. After that, I was mercy flown in a jet to Seattle and Harborview. There, I would spend the next 21 days of my life, and I would undergo 5 surgeries. One of the first surgeries was to put nerves back in my arm, because I no longer had nerves, and I would never have feeling if I didn't have nerves replaced. So the doctors took nerves from my calves. I no longer have feeling on the sides of my feet, but I have feeling in my hand. The next surgery was to reattach my tendons. So they just stretched them together and sutured them in hopes that eventually the tension would leave and I would be able to use my fingers again. After this, they took a muscle from my leg, muscle tissue, to basically repair everything, to kind of cover up this giant gash in my arm. This surgery took about 8 hours, and it was the most difficult one to recover from. I woke up in a room that had to always be above 90 degrees to keep circulation in my arm, and I had to stay there for 5 days. I couldn't walk, I couldn't move, I could barely even turn in my bed because everything was swollen, everything was stiff and sore. Eventually, I was released from Harborview, and I was able to come home to my friends and family. And it was great for the first couple of days. It felt like things were going to get better. But it was better. But my struggles didn't stop. I couldn't really walk. It was more just a one-legged hobble. I couldn't tie my shoes. I couldn't button my pants. I could hardly get ready for school. And even when I was at school, it was hard to focus. It was hard to stay awake. Life wasn't so good. To this day, I still have pains occasionally in the morning. I still wake up with nerve pain. But things have gotten better for me. Today, I'm still not where I want to be. My doctor in Harborview told me that I would never play basketball again. He told me that I should focus on camping, having fun, doing whatever we do in Montana. And maybe 7 years, 8 years up the line, maybe I can start picking up a ball again. He didn't know that I love basketball, and this took a huge toll on me. It was hard to even want to do anything, to go anywhere, because that was such a huge part of my life, and he said I wouldn't be able to do that. Little did I know that I would use what he said as motivation for the rest of my life. I got home from Seattle in late August. I was already playing junior high basketball for my team again in October. By February, I started for my varsity basketball team. To this very day, I work on my basketball every day after school in the old gym. If you don't believe me, you can go check. Things got better for me, and I'm still here today. And although I've done what no one thought I would, it was not fun. I went to therapy 3 times a week, and life was a general struggle. But I'm still here, I'm still alive, and I was lucky. Things panned out for me. But there are no guarantees. The odds fell in my favor. I know it can seem so safe in your car, music blaring, laughing, cruising on the road. It can be fun, I know, because I've been there. But it's really real, and in a single second, the course of your life can change direction. Or what's even worse, the course of your life can come to an abrupt dead end. So do your best to guarantee, each day. Don't text, don't Snapchat and drive, don't drink and drive. You don't even need to get into a car with someone that you don't feel safe with. You don't have to. Just do the best you can to keep yourself safe, so you and your family doesn't have to worry about you every day. Thank you.
So that's a hard-hitting reality, isn't it? It takes us. And your family does care, and your family is important. I want to invite Heather Perry. She's an EMT with us, but she's also our county attorney, and to talk about what are the realities of things when you survive a crash and survive those type of situations.
Hi, I'm Heather Perry from Utica. When we respond as EMTs, our primary focus is that everybody survives the wreck. And once the scene is cleared and the officers are done with their investigation, I get a file on my desk for every crash. And every choice that you make has consequences, good or bad. So what I want to do today a little bit is talk to you about your responsibilities as a driver and possible charges if you're the driver, and then possible charges even if you're the passenger. Normally for the passenger, what you would be in trouble for is MIPs. Every time you go to the hospital, you need to get a blood draw. I issue criminal investigative subpoenas to medical facilities, and I will get a blood draw for alcohol, THC, whatever it is that you may have in your system. Okay? So even if you're a passenger, you can be charged for doing something that's illegal, okay? You can also be charged if there's drug paraphernalia in the car, if there are actual drugs in the car, any sorts of criminal behaviors. The files on my county attorney desk don't care whether you were injured, okay? Obviously, if you're deceased, there's no charges. But if you survive, file on my desk doesn't care what your injuries are or how traumatic it is for you and your family, okay? If you are the driver, you need to take this very, very seriously. Driving is a privilege, not a right. So, your ability to drive, even at a young age, you need to take very seriously that every single person in your vehicle is belted up, okay? You are deemed to be responsible for having everybody belted, because once you put the vehicle in drive, that's your choice and nobody else's, okay? You are responsible for what your passengers have in your or your parents' vehicle. That includes pipes, drugs, beer cans, alcohol containers, whatever, okay? Because all of these things are clearly visible to law enforcement at the side of a crash scene, okay? It doesn't matter if they're behind the seat or under the seat or whatever. Everything goes fine, including the people that aren't talking about. Everything that is illegal is cataloged and pictures are taken by law enforcement, and it's in the file, okay? Also, as the driver, you are responsible for your speed, for your dedication and attention to the road, and for your physical well-being, meaning you better not be under the influence, okay? You don't have to be .08. You can get what we refer to as baby DUIs, which is MIP status, but a DUI while you're driving, because if you're not 21 and you're over .02, which is like nothing, you better not have anything in your system, okay? You also don't have to blow. They take your license immediately, and then we sort it out from there. We can also get something called a blood subpoena if you refuse to blow, and it's your second or more, or there's some other aggravating circumstances. The best way, my dad always said this in high school: if you wouldn't have been somewhere you shouldn't have been, with people you shouldn't have been with, doing something you shouldn't have been doing, we wouldn't be having this conversation. How would we? That's what you need to remember every time you get into the car, okay? If you survive as the driver and someone else is either injured or killed, you will be charged. Cars do not, in their normal course, accidentally just leave the roadway or strike another vehicle. They don't. It doesn't happen. You need to take very seriously your responsibility behind the wheel and with your driver's license. The other thing that you need to remember, and probably one of the things that we've noticed even more this summer in responding to some of these crashes, you may not be doing anything wrong. You may be the unlucky soul that is in oncoming traffic by the person that is headed your direction who isn't doing anything right. have to be able, you have to pay attention well enough to be able to spot erratic drivers or something that doesn't look right. Because you are the only one that can save yourself and your vehicle and the lives of your passengers. Do you guys have any questions? Okay, thanks.
Sometimes we wonder, well, how would I spot that person? How would I know? Think about it. They're driving down the road, they're looking like this. What are they trying to do? Not text and drive, right? They're trying to act like they're not doing it. This makes it even worse as I'm looking. As you're looking on people coming on to you, if you're seeing that, pay attention. Those are realities. That's what's happening. The other drivers don't get the chance to come and hear the stories we're hearing today. So when we're doing that, you have to be defensive in looking at those, and you'll learn about that in your driving classes as you go forward. All right, now we're going to have Suze Ani come up and share with us about being a mom and what that's like to go through Jace's deal. You heard Jace's side of the story, but there's also another part of that story. And we're going to have Suze talk, and then after Suze, I'm going to introduce Angela Phelps to you. And so we'll have Suze. She's our chief EMT, kind of lady for the community, for the county, and been in the first responder deal for quite a while.
Good morning. So if there's one thing I've learned in my 7+ years as an EMT, it's that trauma is really ugly. When a loved one, friend, neighbor, or even somebody you hear or read about on Facebook or in the news or whatever is involved in a car crash, that trauma turns into an ugly monster. On August 4th, 2011, the ugly monster entered my life. Driving after dark, a newly gravel road, an unmarked corner, and an inexperienced driver resulted in a horrible car crash. Both of my kids were in that crash. One was critically injured, the other not a scratch. And I was two totally separate people that night, the EMT and the mom. When I read the page that said a one-vehicle rollover, Antelope Creek Road, I knew my biggest fear had just become a glaring reality. The mom got on the phone and called Taylor. Were they okay? What happened? Where exactly are they? I talked to her the 2 or so miles to the crash, and I know Taylor didn't have that rule back then. We now have a rule. Our phones are not touched while we're in the car. Anyway, I couldn't put that phone down. I couldn't let go of that lifeline. So I get on scene, and the level-headed EMT was up first. Assess the scene, assess the injuries, triage the patients, and transport the patients. These are the things that are written in black and white in a book that you study over and over, that we all train for so that we can do our jobs as an EMT. I thank God every day for that studying and that training, because I knew what to do. Not something I had planned to do on my own family, but that's how things go. After I helped get Jace loaded onto the ambulance, I just couldn't be that EMT any longer. It was time to be a mom. Nothing in black and white, no book to study, no training prepares a mom for this. Nothing to prepare you for seeing your daughter covered from head to toe in blood, yet insisting that she's okay, and your son horrifically injured and at that point so incredibly vulnerable. So as any good mom would do, I muddled through with as much grace and dignity as humanly possible. Every sound, every smell, every doctor, ER nurse, ICU nurse, flight nurse, basically every detail about that night and the next 2 days is just still so incredibly clear. Memories that are not welcome, but recur a lot. Walking beside your child as he's being wheeled into surgery and not knowing if you will ever see him alive again. Watching with tears streaming down your face as that same child is loaded into an ambulance to go to the airport to fly multiple states away, and again not knowing if you will ever see him alive again. Pretty sad and painful memories. He did make it through that first surgery. He did survive the flight and the 5 more surgeries after that. I thank God daily that I still have my son, a son that still has all of his body parts. Some of them have been rearranged, but they're still his parts. son that is able to walk and talk and just plain be. I know it isn't always easy, and some days are incredibly painful, both physically and mentally for him. Chris, Taylor, and I each have our incredibly painful days. All four of us have figured out how to get through it in our own ways, but I can guarantee you it's not easy, and it hasn't been very pretty at times. I remember asking Chris about 10 to 12 days into their time at car review if Jace was still the same Jace. So much had changed so quickly and so dramatically. The Jace that existed on August 3rd, 2011 is gone forever. His innocence is gone. Some of his carefree teenage years just plain didn't happen, and that makes me really sad. Like he said, his pediatric doctor at car review said he would never play basketball again. He has worked hard and shown such determination to get to where he is today, and that makes me so incredibly proud. The first time that he tied his shoes again at age 15 was pretty bittersweet. We're still working on getting those buttons done at times, but he's getting there. The Ani family that existed on August 3rd, 2011 is also gone forever. The toll that something like this takes on a family is just, it's indescribable. In some ways, it's made us closer. In some ways, more distant. You take the good with the bad, focus on the good, and just love each other fiercely. The EMT that responded to that wreck is gone forever. Forever. Every single time that pager goes off, since this happened, my heart just goes crazy. Skips beats, it just goes crazy. And I can't even explain what happens when you get that page for a car crash that involves teenage fatalities. My heart just breaks. And I just can't imagine going through what I've gone through with my son, through all the surgeries, through not knowing, you know, are you ever going to see me again? I cannot imagine not seeing that son walk around. And all of this has really made me determined to help each and every one of you from letting that ugly monster into your lives. Please, please, please do everything within your power to prevent that accident. Be aware of your inexperience at all times. I'm 51 years old and I still consider myself an inexperienced driver. We don't live in a perfect world. Be prepared for those road conditions, whether it's icy conditions, a deer that jumps out in front of you, other drivers, a flat tire. Just the list goes on of things that you have to constantly be prepared for. And be in control of your own safety. Buckle your seatbelt. Put the phone down. Don't drink and drive. Don't do drugs and drive. Just please make smart choices. And you know what we all love about life is who we share it with. And we all really want to continue sharing this with. Thank you.
Oh, this is going to be an interesting one, guys. Angela's going to share with us about her boys. This is a special talk, and I want you to think hard about what happens here. As we start looking at those perfected playlists that we make on our iPads and our iPhones and all that, and we hook up to our vehicles that hook so well, if it's not perfect, wait till you get home to fix that perfected playlist. Go look on YouTube. YouTube has some really cool videos where they've showed the driver pointed back at him. Look what you're doing. It happens all the time. So Angela, it's Angela Phelps from Denton, Montana. She works up at Moccasin. She is going to get her full paramedic and is still an EMT and helps out with Hobson when we don't have anybody here.
All right. I'm going to start off by showing you some pictures. This is my oldest son, Dale. This was when he was born. He's almost a year there. This was when he was 17. This is the last picture that will ever be taken of him in school. Real human beings. They were born weighed at 13, almost 14, last picture that he ever had taken in school. And gave birth to these babies. They will always be my babies. I kissed them when they were dead, before the coroner took them. I will never forget the moment that their hearts stopped beating and mine did not. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the ways that this affected our lives right at the beginning. While others were scheduling their senior pictures, we were choosing a picture for the obituary. While others were dreaming of what high school would be like, we were living the nightmare of planning the funeral. While others were deciding what classes they were going to take, we were deciding on what urn to put our boys in. While others were buying school supplies, we were purchasing a headstone. Please think about what would happen to the ones you love, that you would leave behind, your parents, your siblings, your friends. Now I'm going to talk to you about what we've lost more in the long term. I never got to watch that football game with all three of my boys on the field in the same year. I missed senior nights. I missed homecomings. I missed proms. I missed graduations. I will never celebrate another birthday with Gail and Kate. I will never meet their girlfriends, their fiancés, or their wives. I will never see them get married. I will never hold their children. I will never have my whole family home for Christmas, or any other holiday, or any other celebration. My son Kyler did not get to have his brother stand up for him at his wedding, and he will never be able to do the same for them. Kyler will never be an uncle to his brother's children. My grandbabies will never know their uncles, and they will never have cousins to play with at this Granny's house. There's a lot of other things we're missing too, but I hope that this gives you a little picture of the void that was left, and I want you to think about the void that you would leave. Now I'm going to tell you a few things that I've learned through this tragedy. First of all, time does not heal all wounds. Grief does not go away. The intensity might lessen, but it stays. Bitterness and anger will eat you alive. A soft heart can help you heal. Tears are good. Hugs can hold the pieces of a broken heart together. Sometimes words are not necessary. You can find joy again. Laughter really is the best medicine. And this kind of intense grief can only come from a deep love. I would never trade the joy of knowing and loving my boys to avoid the pain that I felt from losing them. Please think, you guys, please make good decisions. Wear your seatbelts, put your phones away. Don't drive impaired, and pay attention. I know you all think that bad things are not going to happen to you, but I'm here to tell you, you are not invincible. You are not immune, and it can happen to you. In closing, I want you to know that I hope I've broken your hearts enough to make you think every time you get behind the wheel. I hope and pray that every time you get in a vehicle, you will see these faces flash before your eyes and you will make the right decisions. Most of all, I want you to know that I worry about every single one of you. I care about every single one of you. And I will always be here for you if you have any questions.
say I love you whenever you get the chance. Thanks for listening.
Real life hurts, doesn't it? Real life is real. As we think about those things and that resonates in our mind, it's real. It happens. You guys know these kids. You know some of them. And accidents are unavoidable, right? Sometimes they just happen. But there's a lot of them that we face every day that are completely avoidable. So I want to talk to you. We talked about the life. We talked about death. I want to have a really interesting person come and talk to us. And I've gotten to know Dick, and one of the things that I didn't want to get to know Dick is I didn't want to become an EMT because I didn't really care for dead people. Okay? It wasn't a real cool thing. I didn't really think that'd be too awesome. I learned that that's part of life and you move on. See, as when we're EMTs, the difference is that, heck, sometimes we're related to you guys. Sometimes we know who you are from a very, very young age. It's really tough in our community. When we step up to a vehicle and we say, here's fatalities, we still got to go, right? It's tough. But you know what? When we sit here and we get a chance to visit with you and share with you how much it affects us and hurts us, we can share with you how much you mean to us. It makes it okay to do what we do. I want to talk to you, have you talk to Dick Brown, our coroner for Fergus County and Judith Basin. I want you to hear what he has to say today. Because this is very hard-hitting and it's very eye-opening. It's very kind of interesting what he does in his job. So Dick, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Everybody hear me all right?
Yeah.
You know, all these people over here, I know them all pretty well, and the first thing they say when they see me is they haven't seen me for a long time. That's a good thing. Nobody wants to see me. They don't want to have me come. But when I do come, they're glad I'm there. I'm the coroner, and my job is to come out and figure out what happened. If somebody is deceased, why they died. Might be an accident, might be a natural cause. A couple things that you should know about. They've talked about distracted driving. They've talked about being in an accident that's not your fault. You know, being a defensive driver, those are very important things. One thing in this accident we just had recently that probably all of you heard about close to your hometown here, one thing that stuck out in my mind more than anything is we had 4 young people, oldest one age 17, right Joe? In a vehicle, 5 o'clock in the morning we find them dead at 5:30. Not one of their parents knew where they were. That bothers me. That bothers me more than anything. When I call a parent and they ask me why their child was in Hobson, Montana and killed in a car accident, they didn't know who they were with. I said, you're asking the wrong person. You know, how would I know? It's your kid. What I'm trying to tell you is, you know, mom and dad, sometimes you say, hey, I want to go here. And they go, no, you can't do it tonight. Who are you going with? I'm going to call there and make sure their mom's home. You think you don't trust me? It's not a question of trust. Kids are kids. I was a kid, they're all kids. We all did the same thing. We wanted to have fun. We thought it was all right to sneak out one night. Well, look what one night did to these. 3 of them are dead, one's paralyzed. And not one parent knew where those kids were at. They all thought they were somewhere that they weren't. And that really bothers me, because I think that's wrong, you know. With my own family, I've always said, you know, you go somewhere, you call me when you get there. You call me when you leave, I want to know. Because in my job, the worst thing that could happen is I get a call, and I roll out there, and I see this car, it looks familiar, and it's some of my family or my friends. And that happens. I'm born and raised here. I've been here all my life, so I know a lot of people. That's the hardest thing for my job, is getting out there. It might be somebody I know or one of my family members. So I always want to know where they're at. At first, they think I don't trust them. They think I'm just checking on them. But it's because I care. Jay's had a little accident. If he'd have called before he left town, you know, mom and dad would have known where he was right away. You know, they kind of did. It's just one little thing that's important, that you think mom and dad don't trust you. You think they're just checking up on you. But you know what? It's because they love you. It's because they care about you. That's why they do those things. It's not because they don't trust you. It's not because they think you're doing something wrong. They all know that kids will be kids and kids will do dumb things. We're kids, that's how we learn. Okay? But if they can help you out and you trust them enough to tell them where you're at when you need help, call them. That could save your life. Everything else they've talked about here today can do that too. The worst part of my job, everybody says, how can you do this? Well, by trade, I'm a funeral director. But I've been an EMT, I've been a firefighter, I've been a first responder, I've done them all. I was back running an ambulances when it was advanced first aid. That's many years ago, before they had the EMT program. So I've been there from the beginning, I've been all the way through it. I've lost family members, so I've kind of went through the whole spectrum of it. But the worst part of my job, and in a small community like this, most people, probably every one of your parents here know who I am. If I walk up with one of these gentlemen to your door at noon or 2 o'clock in the morning and knock on the door, they know why I'm there. They just want to know who it is. I'm not there just to have coffee, have a can of pop. I'm there giving them some pretty bad news. And there's no good way to say it, there's no easy way to say it, but it's part of the job that I have to do. And I don't think any one of you here want me to walk to your house and knock on your door and tell your mom and dad that news. Something you'll never get over. When something does happen in an accident scene, we come. I brought a body bag. If anyone wants to see one, we use those. We load people up in a body bag. I return back to my office. I take a lot of photographs. I try and figure out what happened. What did this person die from? That's my job. We will take bodily fluids from everybody. We send them into the crime lab. We check for drugs. We check for alcohol, whatever we can find that might have been a contributing factor to the cause of this accident. So that's kind of what I do. If I want more done or I don't know what happened and I want an autopsy, I can order an autopsy to be performed by a pathologist. I've been doing this probably, been the coroner in Fergus County. I'm going to my 17th year. I was a deputy coroner there 13 years before that. I think I've been a deputy coroner in Judith Basin County for about 28 years. I've been doing this job for 38 years. So I've seen a lot, I've done a lot, but it still never gets easy to walk up to somebody's house and tell them that their child is gone, or even their dad or mom or whoever. So anything you can do to help, even if it's to remind mom and dad to wear their seatbelt. You know, seatbelts are a good thing, and I'm not going to stand up here and tell you that if you wear your seatbelt, you'll never get killed in a car wreck. Because I've unbuckled dead people from seatbelts. But you have a better chance if you have your seatbelt on than if you don't. Okay, so you got to play the odds. Like they said, you know, defensive driving, you always got to look out for the other guy. Pay attention. What are people doing in front of you? What are they doing behind you? My family gets mad at me all the time because I'm in the rumble strips going down the highway when cars are coming. I say, you know, I can get up in the ditch faster than go across the road and have somebody get me. So it's just something that I do. It's something I've learned because of what I've gone through in my life. But anytime anybody wants to talk, you know, I was there with Angela's kids. You know, we've had a lot of tragedy in the last 10 years in this area. A lot of multiple, you know, accidents. The other thing is, you don't want to hear this, but make sure when you do travel anywhere that you have an ID and keep it with you. You know, the other part of my job that's really hard, like this one at Moccasin, we have 4 people in a car. We don't know who one of the 4 people are. No IDs, no pictures, no nothing. You know, now we got to start trying to figure out who they are, let alone where they come from, and how to get a hold of the family and tell them what happened. You know, and that happens a lot. I had one quite a few years ago in Fergus County, same thing. I had 3 people killed in a car accident. One ID amongst 3 people, it was a man's ID in a girl's pants pocket, and wasn't even anybody who was in the car. You know, I spent most of the night trying to figure out who these kids were. I had one in Harlowtown here just earlier this same month. You know, the accident happened about 2 o'clock in the morning. It wasn't until 8 o'clock the next night we found out who the person was. Why people travel without ID of some kind, I don't know. But you know, even if you're hurt, you know, if mom and dad know where you're at and you're hurt, you know, somebody still needs to know who you are and how to get a hold of family. So having an ID is important. I know you don't want to hear that from me because when I'm looking for your ID, it's not a good thing. But, you know, it can make things a little bit easier for you. Hopefully, maybe save you because you are alive and they can get help and get things. Maybe you have a medical condition that the responders need to know about, you know. Those things are important and that's what we need to know. Anytime anybody wants to come and see me, ask questions, know about what I do, I'm more than welcome to talk anytime, answer questions. You can come to my facility and I can show you around a few things. I would much rather have you do it while you're alive and looking at it than find out later. And I think that's beneficial to everybody. But I think this is a good thing today. Hopefully, if it at least saves one person in this room or one family, we've accomplished something. I hope it saves you all. But like they said, we'll never know. So thanks a lot for listening. Thanks a lot for being here. kids will be kids. But remember, just be careful all the time, pay attention. Everybody watch TV? See the new commercial out that starts out in reverse? Seen that on TV? Anybody seen that? Watch TV, there's a commercial that starts out in reverse. It's a wreck, only it's in reverse. And then they show it going forward. Some mother, a little kid in the car seat driving down the road, she's looking at their daughter's picture on her cell phone saying, oh, this is, they're getting all these messages stuff on it in a residential area. And as it goes through it, then as she comes, she looks down like this, goes across the center line, and the truck gets her head on. And it shows the inside of the car. It's kind of graphic, but something to think about. That's in town, probably 20, 25 miles an hour. So you only imagine on the highway at 60 or 70 what's going to happen. Any questions? Like I say, anytime, if you have a question, I'll be around a little bit afterwards, or you want to come and see me in private, I'm more than welcome to talk to anybody anytime. Thank you.
We've got to see the real CSI. That's what Dick is real CSI. That's a real career. And we also are going to encourage you that you probably don't want to think about it, but we've got Mariah that has taken the class with us and will be an EMT at the end. We want to encourage you to look at these as profession, because this is a powerful way to impact your community. So we're going to start out, we're going to kind of close with some discussion from our police officers. And you know, we face some tough deals because we're helping people and getting them to the hospital, but we're generally trying to improve their life and to save their lives. These guys are too. They're trying to be proactive. We get pulled over because you're speeding or doing something like that. They're trying to keep us safe because driving is a privilege, correct? And when we sit here and listen to these guys, they get to see a lot more stuff than we have. And they have been through a lot this year. A lot. A lot. Okay? Not a little bit, a lot. And so as we get to hear from them today, I want you guys to really take what's going on in their hearts and what they're talking about and listen, because they have some great advice, they have some great things to tell us, and they have some powerful things. And man, I'll tell you what, I don't know how they're functioning some things because of what they've had to see and what they've had to be around. So, turn it over to Joe and to Nathan, and Tim, if you want to come in too, talk to you.
Good morning. Thanks, guys, for coming out. I know you didn't really have a choice, but we had a choice, and it's important for us to be here because we care about you guys all. We see a lot of greatness here, and we love to see people win, and we want to help you if we can, so to put you in a position to set you up for success. Now, that's not something people usually associate with law enforcement. You know, usually people see us as we're trying to bring you down, we're always nagging at you, we're always getting on your case, we're looking for things that you're doing wrong, and that's true. And the reason that we're doing that is because we can set you in the right direction and help you be successful. We love to see when people win. We mostly deal with great people. Sometimes people make mistakes, we're going to find it. Sometimes things happen that are outside of your circumstances. We want to be there to help you. Okay, so that's why we're here. I think most of you guys know me. My name is Nathan Hamilton. I'm a Deputy Sheriff in Judith Basin County. This is Trooper Jody Young with the Montana Highway Patrol. He lives here in Hobson. He's our local trooper. And our Undersheriff, Tim Wilhelms. We've all been in law enforcement for a considerable amount of time. We've seen more things than you can probably imagine. We've grown through success by working and learning and dealing with hardships. And we want to pass on some of that stuff to you so that you guys can be successful. Because if you don't have a plan for success, you're going to fail. It might be a small failure, it might be a huge failure. So we want to drive you guys more towards building up for success. Making a plan for success, following that plan, and making adjustments when you get off track, okay? Because we all do, right? I do stupid stuff sometimes. It's true. But I learn from my mistakes, I take accountability for my actions, and I move forward. Okay? We can't go side to side and back in time. So sometimes we just have to suck it up, learn from our mistakes, and move on. There's two ways you can learn from a mistake. I'll give you an example because it's a good illustration. If you want to learn about electricity, you can take a fork and jam it into an electrical outlet. Okay? If you do that yourself, you're learning, right? That's the most powerful way to learn something. The other way is to be told something. Okay? You guys all know to wear your seatbelt? Wear your seatbelt. I just told you that. You all know that. You already knew that. If you've been in a crash without your seatbelt on, you've learned it in a different way, right? Okay? There's also kind of a third way. You can be there when someone else fails and learn from their failure. It's a little more removed than doing it yourself, but it's not just being told, okay? So we want to make sure that you guys can hopefully learn from being told, not have to witness it, and we certainly don't want you jamming forks in an electrical outlets, okay? Don't try that at home. It's just an example, all right? So, you know, we have had a lot of crashes. We're primarily focused on traffic safety today because we, this year, have seen so much of it. And we've seen so many young people that have literally had their bodies blown apart, their lives destroyed, limbs ripped off. We've seen horrible things. That happens. And it happens in an instant. You can't even think, you don't have time to think about it or change it. Once that starts in motion, and Joe can talk about this a little more because he's an expert, you can't save it once you start it. You have to save it before it happens, okay? We also know that sometimes those things are out of your control because someone else has set that in motion. And you don't have enough life experience or driving experience to see that coming and the skill to avoid that. Sometimes that happens. It happens to experienced people as well. So those are the things that we want. We want you guys to be successful. So when we're talking to you, that's what's driving us every day. Why would we get up and go to work every day? The stuff that we have to deal with. Oftentimes we think, is it really worth it? And then we think back about our communities and why we're here and the talents that we're given to make us successful in doing that. As long as that, for me, outweighs the stuff I have to put up with, I'm going to keep going to work because I want all of our community to be successful. So we're really looking at traffic safety because we've had some crashes this year that have really been impactful. So Tater Erickson invited us to come here, and I'm glad to be here to share some of that recent stuff with you that we've seen. So maybe you guys can take that in a little bit. We're not harping on you guys like you got to get your act together and change this. Well, a little bit we are. But we're doing it because you guys are all important to us, okay? So for myself, since the spring, like around May, I've worked on 5 crashes that are significant. 3 of those were fatal crashes, and 2 of them were severe injury crashes. Most of them involved young people. Okay, all of them were people under 40. So that's impactful. Those are things that you continually think about, and how can we change that? So we're seeing people that are making bad choices or being distracted drivers, and all of the fatality crashes and severe injury crashes are because people aren't wearing their seatbelts. Seatbelts save people's lives. Is that correct? Definitely. So this crash near Moccasin, you got 4 people, 16 and under, nobody's wearing a seatbelt. And 3 of them are dead. When we look at that vehicle, now that impacts us as law enforcement officers. We're made out of people. We have feelings, we experience these things. The thing that bothers me the most is when we go back and later and we look at that vehicle, or we see it upside down even at the crash scene, and I look at it, and there's no blood in the vehicle, and there's tremendous space inside that vehicle with a lot of stuff that's not broken. If those people had stayed inside that vehicle, they probably would have been injured because it was a severe crash, but they probably wouldn't be dead. And that's just the fact. And I look at another vehicle that I had just over a week ago, severe injuries, organ damage, broken neck, ejected out of the vehicle, and that was on a county road at a much lower speed. The vehicle rolled over in a ditch several times, and the person was thrown out. And that doesn't happen if you have your seatbelt on. Not only that, but when you're in a vehicle that rolls over and you're not wearing your seatbelt, you're crashing into everyone else that's in the vehicle. Okay? That's the reality of what happened in a crash. Joe can talk to you more about the mechanics of the crash. But that's the things that we're seeing. You know, I had another crash with young people. Distracted driver went off the side of the road, hit an approach, launched the vehicle into the air, hit another approach. The one injury was a mild fracture in a vertebrae, and one kid had a broken arm. They all stayed in the vehicle, they're all alive, and their injuries were greatly reduced because they're wearing the seatbelts. So it makes a big impact. Okay, so don't set yourself up for a failure by doing stupid stuff. So I'll let Joe rant for a little bit.
All right, stand up. Take the best for last, right? Me. Okay? Some of you guys were yawning. Okay, what I want you to do is stay standing if you think you will never, ever be in a crash. Go ahead. Why does everybody sit down? You guys get your driver's license, right? Are you guys planning on crashing? Why'd you sit down? Huh? Why did you sit down? Because it could happen, right? Okay. Who's taken my classes before? Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you've been in my class. Or at driver's ed talk. Anything. If you heard me speak, raise your hand high. Okay? Did you guys like that? Some of it hit home? Out of the whole thing today, the number one thing that hits home with me is when Angie talks. Feeling her pain, right? You guys feel that? You get teary-eyed like I did? That is the biggest thing I have to deal with when we go to these crashes. When family and friends show up on them, that is the hardest thing we deal with because we can see that pain. And it kills us. If you're gone, you're gone. We'll try to figure it out and tell your family later. Okay? That pain kills us. That's the hardest thing we have to deal with on there. If you guys sneak out, like these last kids did, and don't tell your family and friends, and we got to find out who they are, we're making phone calls to people we don't know. To give them the worst news in the world, that you're not coming home. Okay? How many don't wear your seatbelts? If you raise your hand, and I've seen you drive without your seatbelt, I'm going to dime you out. So how many of you don't wear your seatbelt? All the time. I'm going to say all the time. It happens, right? Okay? I can't stop you guys from not wearing your seatbelt. I got to find something else. I've dealt with 6 fatality crashes this year. 4 of them were my investigation. The number one cause that they died, and I can almost be 100% sure that they would live if they would have had their dang seatbelt on. Okay? I know it's a pain in the butt to put on, but when you get in the habit of it, it's easy. Okay? So if you guys can get one thing out of here, wear your dang seatbelt. I don't want to hear any excuses about, oh, I'm just going here or going here. The slowest fatality crash I had was less than 5 miles an hour. If they didn't have a seatbelt on, they would have lived. 5 miles an hour. You're like, how can that happen? They rolled right off the road. Got ejected, the vehicle crushed them. Okay? The kid from Geyser that survived, he's going to be paralyzed. Wear your seatbelt. He's going to live. Okay? That car went 267 feet airborne. How many of you guys know about the crash out here by Moccasin? Does everybody know about it? Okay, if you don't know about it, we had 3 kids die. One's paralyzed. They were going very fast. How far is 267 feet? Anybody? Oh, it's a football field, right? It's definitely as big as our football field because they don't think we got a full-size football field. It's from end zone to end zone. Right? Pitcher going that fast, being that far near, and comes down. What's going to happen to you if you're not wearing your seatbelt? You're probably not going to stay in the car. They didn't. That car living capacity was huge, you guys, huge. Do I think that every one of them would live? Maybe not. They're going really fast. When I say really fast, I mean over 120 miles an hour is what we calculate the speeds at. Okay? And not one person was licensed in the vehicle. How are we doing on time? We good? Okay. You guys that took my class, you guys are invincible, right? Are you guys invincible?
No.
Who's invincible? Raise your hand if it won't happen to you. Come on. Someone here's thinking it. I know they are. You gotta go sit here and listen to these people talk. It feels, right? Okay. Number one thing I'm gonna say is seatbelts. Number two is distracted driving. Okay? Cell phones, everything, blah, blah, blah. You guys aren't that good yet to drive. Between the ages of 14 and 25, you guys are number one for crash statistics, period. In experience. Number three. Anyone know what that is? Huh? Huh? Drinking? Drinking, drugs. Not a good combo for a vehicle, right? Okay. I won't preach on everything. You guys, most of you, at least heard me in safe driver's ed. Took my Live at 25 class. Some of you younger ones, you'll probably get it later. Because I teach it pretty good, at least to try. So, with that, I think they want to go somewhere too, but Tim has anything else? I'll get off my soapbox. You guys just wear seatbelts. Because I haven't had to clean up anybody yet, I know. And I don't know how that'll affect me. But if I have to clean up one of you guys, I know for a fact it's going to affect me because I know most of you guys now. So.
And that's not fun. Been there, done that this summer too. You have to tell a parent, a kid that. Not a fun thing to do. You're all responsible for your vehicles. You make your choices, and it's your choice what you do. But we want to just iterate, wear your seatbelt, don't be distracted, and just be aware of the defensive driving and people coming at you, behind you, beside you, whatever. Because if you are distracted and someone's coming at you, you don't have any time to react. I mean, it's all over, done. It's a crash, big time. Wear your seatbelts. We're not here to harp on you. We're here to educate you, and we want to see you succeed in life. We want to see that until you're old. Deputy Hamilton and Trooper Joe has done a fabulous job, and everybody involved in this, and I really appreciate that.
Do you guys have any questions? Do you guys want to talk to us a little bit about what you guys feel, what you guys are thinking, what you're seeing? Questions about our jobs, any of our jobs? What are you guys, what are your thoughts about things? You guys got high school zombie phase, come on. Scared? Every time we talk to kids, we're really trying to engage you guys and you get this gone.
I give kudos to Jason for coming up and talking in front of his peers. It's one of the hardest things you can do. Okay?
It is, especially something so difficult. So.
You know, and I know Jason was involved in another crash even this year, so that was close. I mean, it's a scary deal. Talking about something that could happen at the edge of your life, right?
So what are you guys' thoughts? What do you guys think about what you're seeing in your world, the changes that you're seeing? That you guys deal with a lot of stuff, right? I mean, it's hard enough to just be a teenager and go to school, and then you have all these other things come on.
Yeah, like Facebook, Twitter, whatever. And someone's wearing this. Someone bought these new shoes, right? And someone made that comment. Damn it. Anyway, I got a lot of soapboxes I can talk about. So.
We can take up the rest of your day, but I know you guys need to get back to math class, so.
Huh? No? Yeah.
All right, well, we were gonna go measure out the distance of 267 feet. That is the size of your football field. When you drive by your football field, that's how far they flew in the air.
How far is a half mile in feet? Anybody?
Like 2,000. Yeah.
Okay, the total length of this feet was over 820 some feet. Okay, so how far is that? Will be about a quarter mile?
To when they finally stopped. Can you imagine what was going through their heads as they were flying through the air? Because believe me, they had time to think. When that vehicle lifted off the ground, the trajectory of that approach, you can drive by and see it. That vehicle shot in the air. How many people have rode the slingshot at the state fair? You know that feeling? Believe me, they were pulling G's when they left the ground. They were pulling a lot of G's.
With no safety.
With none. You know what they rattled around like in the middle of that deal? Remember the little ball that you put all the little shapes in when you were a little kid? Those you babysat? Just imagine taking that and throwing that against the wall. What would have that been like? Guys, today we're talking about real things. We have more first responders. We have Steph, we have Bernard, we have Marty, we have David. We have all these guys that have dedicated their lives to doing this. And we're doing this and we're having a part with you guys because we really, really care. And I know that you're like, man, they just scared us, they did all this kind of stuff. I don't really care. Because at the end of today, it is your choice.
Parker?
Didn't do it.
No. Sorry. We can hear Parker on his motorcycle below our house, and we're always like, Parker?
It's your choice. With that, we're going to hand the keys over to you guys. And you guys drive, stay alive, have fun, live life. But it's your choice. And do not be the one in the back that doesn't stand up and say, put your seatbelt on. You are as big a chicken as anybody in the world if you hand your life over to those people without saying, please put your seatbelt on. Please put your phone down. I will read you your text. Perfect your playlist at home, not in the vehicle. Thank you guys. Come visit with us. It's a great profession. We encourage you guys to live long and remember it's your choice. Thanks.